I'm happy you're here. One, because I'm just happy to see you, but two, because this means that you're taking time for you to work on your business. And, you've probably heard me say this before. It's easy to work in our businesses. We know the stuff we do, but taking this time to pause and work on your business is something that's really important for all of us as business owners and leaders. And today is a really auspicious day. It's the beginning of the Lunar New Year. And in Chinese culture, this is the year of the snake. And what's important to know about the Chinese perspective of snakes is that they see snakes as being little dragons, and little
Mm,
dragons are known for shedding their skin. And so we can think about shedding of skin as like a way of being reborn, a rebirth, a regeneration. This is good luck. It's a moment of good luck, but it's also a new moon, and new moons are known as being particularly potent for vision setting, goal setting, thinking about dreams, because it's in this calm moment where there's not a lot of light, and we can be reflective on sort of the internal workings of our lives. So I'd like to start by just bringing up a quote that to me means a lot for what we're doing here. Steve Jobs says, if you're working on something that you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. The
mm,
vision pulls you. Vision is important because it's where that intrinsic motivation often comes from. So we'll be tapping into that today, finding our vision. We'll talk about translating that vision into strategy, then how you take that strategy and turn it into goals. We'll have a little bit of time for some chat, and then we'll wrap things up by 5:15 Eastern, so you can go about the rest of your day. Now, everybody that's here today, I know, which is really beautiful, but and just in case someone listens to this later and you don't know me, a little bit of peep under the tent here. So I've been a business owner for 14 years now, which hardly seems possible. In the span of that time, I have launched and grown and sold and closed many businesses. Hatch Tribe has been around for 9 years this year, and during most of that, I've worked as a business growth coach. And I love the work that I do because I get to work with people like you, helping you really understand how it is that you want to grow your business, then getting in line with that and going. And a big part of my work is with women and leadership and helping you develop better leadership skills so that you can grow your business and in many ways show up the way you want in your life. Outside of work, nature and conservation is my thing. It's what I spend most of my time thinking about and dreaming about, and where a lot of my vision goes for my future. And things I love are road trips, hiking, and dogs, even though I don't own one currently. And I am into witchy stuff, which, as I was thinking about today, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm just this odd mix of business and beyond. So that's that's how I see my brand today. So for today, things that you will need are your pen and paper minimally. If you have the workbook, that's cool, but you do not need the workbook. Everything that you will see on screen or hear me say is all you're going to need for the purposes of the workshop. I do want to just quickly check in. Does anybody have a question or something they want to ask before we get rolling? Okay. Feel free to interrupt me at any point if we need to, and especially if something doesn't look right on screen, please always feel free to interject. So we're going to start with one prompt, one open question. And I want you to just see what comes to mind. If you're working in the workbook, you're just going to write this on page number 3. If you're in a journal, write it where you want it. I want you to just write down, when you think of this question, what does success mean to you? What comes up? I don't have to look at what all of you have written down to know that there will be similarities among what you've written, but also there will be a lot of differences. And that's because success means different things to different people. And I want to take us on a little travel because we're going to keep building on this idea of what success looks like, because that's going to help us plant that vision. But I want to take us on a little time travel to really illustrate this. If we went way back in time to ancient times, for the Egyptians, this was success. They built the pyramids, they built the Sphinx. This was what success looked like to them. But if we fast forwarded millennia, the Greeks had a different vision. Much of what the Greeks believed success looked like, they built into that city, and much of it, even today, is still standing. If you've gone there, you've seen what success looked like to ancient Greece. But if we time travel and location travel further to India, in the 1600s, this was the vision of success for the emperor. He built the Taj Mahal as a mausoleum for his wife who happened to die during, or his wife who died during childbirth. It took 12 years to build the Taj Mahal. Do you think he had a definition of vision? He knew what success looked like for him. But time travel again. In the late 1800s, they wanted to develop something to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. That's what became the Eiffel Tower. There was a vision. There was an idea of what success looked like for that project. But it's not just buildings where we have an idea of success. It's also things like art. For Michelangelo, when he was painting the Sistine Chapel, this is what success was looking like for him in his mind's eye. But if we time travel again, this is what success looked like for Andy Warhol in the 1960s. Completely different, but success nonetheless to the individual viewer. Now let's look at our girl Tay-Tay, someone who Sonny loves dearly. Do you think that she had an idea of what success might look like for that Eras tour? She did 149 shows in just over a year, grossed $2.2 billion. Tay-Tay's got vision, but so does Patrick Mahomes. This guy, and Sunny's shaking her head because she's an Eagles fan, but this guy's getting ready to go to the Super Bowl for the 5th time. He could be poised to win again. Do you think he's got vision? Do you think he has an idea of what success looks like? Yeah. But it's not just famous people and buildings and art, etc. It's also normal stuff where vision is at play. For someone, in their mind's eye, this is success. This is the house they want. They see themselves in this. But for someone else, this is the house of their dreams. They see themselves here. They have this vision in their mind's eye. And it's other normal things like getting married. For someone, this is what it looks like. But for someone else, it's this, which happens to look like a lot of fun to me. You know, for some people, vision and success involves having a little baby. It didn't for me. It still doesn't. Sometimes it involves building a family. That's the vision that they're holding. And for other people, probably more like me, this looks like success. I share this to help us remember that success really does look like different things to different people. But all of those things I shared, including if you examine your own life, will recognize that all of them began with some kind of vision, some kind of a dream, some kind of want and desire that led you there. And that's the thing that we sometimes forget, is that if we ladder it all together, we have to understand that that vision is best when rooted in our dreams. And dreams really are rooted in desire. And if we just examine the word desire, you can think about it that it is a strong, multifaceted human emotion that's really creating a feeling of longing or a feeling of want to have something, to see something happen, to want something to manifest, wishing for something. It's rooted in desire. And that is something that is so unique to you. So tapping into your own unique wants and desires is going to be key to understanding your vision. Without it, it's going to fall flat. So what I'm going to invite you to do is put your stuff down if you're like holding a pen or a paper, and you can shut your eyes here. I want you to just kind of like get into your own body, into your own space, like tune out anything else that's going on. It won't be long. I'm not going to leave you there. So I want you to first just draw into that sensation of your own breath. Like take a big old inhale all the way in and then let it go. And let's just do another 2 of those. And if there's anywhere that you're noticing you're holding a little tension, and start to breathe a little bit of space into that, including your forehead, including your eyeballs. Just relax them in the socket. And even soften your body just into the seat. Wherever you're sitting right now, just soften into it. Let the shoulders drop. Now, I'd like you to imagine that you have just time traveled to the future and you're 5 years from now. And I'd like you to imagine that you're happy. And there's a sense of joy. There's a sense of peace in your heart. And as you sit there imagining this 5 years from today, I want you to kind of peek around in your mind's eye. Like, peek around at this future life. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you sense? So I'm going to ask you to stay here with your eyes closed for just a little bit longer, just an observation. What's there? And I'll call you when it's time to come back. Just breathe and just sense what's there. When you're ready, I'll invite you to just breathe yourself back into your space, to grab your pen, and then I'd like you to write down some of the things that you see, or that you felt, or that you sensed. Okay. Now we're going to keep building on the picture, and I want you to trust that whatever's come through so far is great. But I'm also going to ask us to take a deeper dive because sometimes when we do this vision casting, we're just thinking about the stuff that kind of naturally and normally comes to us without perhaps examining the bigger picture of what life is. So, we're going to take a look at some different facets of life. And I'm going to ask you to look at each of these and also ask yourself what you want in them. So if you're in the workbook, this bridges across pages 5 through 7. But if you're not, what you're really looking at is saying in each of these aspects of your life, what do you want out of friends and or out of family, out of friends and social things, out of fun and recreation, health and well-being, spirituality or religion, however you see that. Personal growth, a way to think of that is opportunities for you to kind of stoke your own intellect or creativity, your physical environment, financial, or impact and legacy. So I'll give you a few minutes here to take some notes around each of these areas. What do you desire in each aspect of life? Okay. I know I could spend so much time here. And I have no doubt that you may want to revisit some of this later because insights will come as they do, sometimes often after. So, thus far, we've really only been talking about personal parts of life. But for those of you whose faces I can see right now, I'm just curious, has work started to seed itself into any of your answers? Have you started writing down at all or thinking about it all work? Seeing a few heads nod. Yeah. I think this is the thing that is unique about those of us that own businesses. It's in many ways our life and our work become commingled. And in part, it's because we often choose careers for things that we really love. And it can be hard to kind of extract out like, oh, well, this is something I like and I enjoy. But then the reality of running our business often look quite different than the joy that brought us into the work that we do, right? Our lives start to inform work, our work starts to inform our life. We find ourselves in this cycle. And I'm not here to say anything about it. I'm not here to judge it. I just want to make sure that you, as you're thinking about your vision, and this is why we start with personal, we always want to lead with personal because it is your human life, not just work. Work is one component of your life and a big, important component for most business owners. But you'll always start with that vision that's very strong in what you want and you desire personally, so that the business you're building is aligned with the life you want. But we need to talk about the business vision now because there may be some stuff there. So I'm actually going to bring you back into a little bit of a reflective state to help you start to think about this. So I'll invite you just again, like put down the pen and just drop back into your seat a little bit. Close your eyes. Take a couple of those big, deep cleansing breaths and just breathe out all the stuff you've done so far. So now we're doing a separate time travel. I want you to imagine that you've just leapt forward 5 years. And you're in your business, the business of your dreams. And you're happy and it feels joyful. You like what you feel there. So look around in your mind's eye in this future business of yours and take note of anything you see there, anything you feel. What's there? Stay in that reflective state for a little while longer, and then I'll draw you back. When you're ready, just breathe back into your space and start to capture some of the things that you sense are part of that dream business 5 years from today. And just as we did before, some things came up there, but I'm going to ask you to take a deeper dive. I want you to look at some specific aspects of business and imagine, what is it that you want? What is it that you desire when we think further out about your business? And the things I want you to take a peek at will be on pages 9 through 11. But here, products and services. What are you selling? Clients and customers. Who are you working with? Your team. Who are you working with? Your role in the business. What are you doing? Physical space. You got an office? Where's it at? What are you doing? Financial? What's it look like? Growth plans? Question mark. Let's see what shows up for you here, again, in that desired vision. Okay. I know that many of you are still writing, and trust me, you could probably spend an hour working on this piece alone. So again, I'll encourage you, revisit this. It may need a little bit more time if the vision is not yet clear. It's also okay if it's not clear. Sometimes we have to follow the pieces that do feel good and aligned and right, where there is a strong desire, and leave question marks on things we just don't know. And that's okay. But as Sarah Blakely would say, you've got to visualize where you're headed. Be very clear about it. Take a Polaroid picture of where you're going to be in a few years. We will not always know exactly what the rest of the picture looks like, but think about that. There might be part of it that is clear to you. And sometimes that's just all we need. Frame in on the pieces that you're clear about. The rest doesn't have to be in the frame yet. And that's all right. So we're going to shift from this vision work, which is important. It helps us understand what we want, what we desire, into translating that vision into a strategy. And really the question we're seeking to answer is like, well, how do I make this a reality? If I have this dream and this is the vision and this is where I'd like to be 5 or more years down the road, how the heck do I make this happen? And I think it's important to understand how all of this fits together. Generally speaking, when we're talking about a business, there's a mission of the business, which is like generally what is the work we're setting out to do. But vision, the pieces we just worked on, is a question of where are we going with that? How are we going to fulfill the mission of our business? And this next component is about strategy. And we're going to be working on strategic imperatives. And you can think about them as these are the big, high-level focus areas that we need to spend some time, energy, and effort on in order to get to the version of reality we want. It's before goals, it's before action plans. And as we work our way through this pyramid of things and we get further downstream, it gets more specific. So we're still living at a very high level as we begin this work on strategic imperatives. So the way to think about our strategic imperatives, they're kind of like our big rocks. They are high level focus areas. They are the things that by and large will guide your decisions and actions. They're helping you understand how to apply resources, time, energy, money, etc., how to apply those resources toward your vision. And often our strategic imperatives aren't immediate. They may not even be completed in 1 year. They often will take multiple years to work on. So we take that bigger vision and we pull it down into a couple big rocks, our big strategic imperatives, and it helps us over time get where we desire to go. So I want to give an example that has nothing to do with your business, which is let's go back and imagine that like really modern house was your dream. If that was your dream and that was what you wanted, from a strategic imperatives perspective, we could put some very easy big blocks together. Well, one, I need to figure out the money. There's the budget and financing piece. I need to figure out the architecture and design. I got to figure out the building and the construction, like the logistics stuff, right? Now, there could be other big buckets, but I can see how those three would be really critical in order for me to make that vision a reality. But in the business context, sometimes these strategic imperatives will start to sound like, oh, I need to grow my team. And you may end up writing that down to say, well, okay, it's about, I need to build the team, but I want some experienced and talented people on my team. And I need them to align with my company's mission, vision, values. Oh, okay. All right. Or maybe a strategic imperative sounds like I need to expand my service offerings. And when you think about that a little further, it's like, well, I'd like to launch some new services that really allow me to capitalize on my client demand, but also maximize my team's ability. Okay. Or another strategic imperative example might be, well, we got to improve our marketing and sales. And that might end up sounding like, well, crap, we need a real marketing and sales plan because we want to be able to attract in more of the ideal clients and also close them. So do you see how these are still pretty high level? They're not specific written goals yet. We don't have like, I'm going to do this by this date and I need to do this exact thing. They're really the high level pieces that help you go, if I do these things and I do these big things well, I actually can see how I could be on my path to my big goal. So for the purposes of what we're going to continue to work on, we're really going to be talking about your business. But mind you, we started with that personal vision work because I really want you to see that the things you're getting ready to make decisions about are going to tell me whether or not you get that personal vision you want to. Because you can make lots of business decisions that get you further and further and further away from the personal life you want. So we anchor in the personal vision. We then build towards the business that we believe we want. And we're going to set those big strategic imperatives. So remember, we're thinking about 2025 and beyond. Those strategic imperatives can be things that you do in 1 year, but they may take a couple of years to come into real fruition. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is to brainstorm some of those big rocks that you need to focus on to get towards that business you're trying to build. And it's going to start to sound like that initial statement, like grow my team. But then I want you to actually craft it a little further. Write down what that actually means to you. So if you're in your workbook, this will be in pages 13 and 14. But if not, just kind of work with where we are. Get some stuff on paper. And I'll give you a couple minutes here. So let me check in here. Do we have a decent idea of what those big rocks should be? Decent starting point? It's okay if it's not perfect because you're going to have time to finesse and refine. At least got a couple you feel pretty good about? Okay. And we'll keep building. So I like to share this in particular with business owners. I've beaten a dead horse by why vision is important. But in this quote with Oprah, she says, you want to be in the driver's seat of your own life because if you are not, life will drive you. And the reason I share this with business owners is because we can replace life with business. You want to be in the driver's seat of your business because if not, business will drive you. Your business has the ability to kind of take over and run it, where you're sitting back going, what the hell happened? Is this a business I want to be living? Do I like the business I'm inside of? Oh my God. Trust me, I've been there, done it. This work is so important because we're layering together all of these things. We're layering together that human desire and emotion, which is you. It's unique to you. It says, what do you want? We're layering it together with the work that you want to do, with the vision for the business you have, the mission that's there. And we want to make sure that the decisions that you're making are helping you get towards that stuff that you want, the stuff that you desire. Without the plan, without the vision, what happens is we just get busy working in our business. It involves our inbox. It involves whoever's ringing that phone. It involves the client that's blowing your shit up and making you crazy. And that becomes what we do. And often that is really not enjoyable because it's so disconnected from that inner drive and the inner understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. So this is why that definition of success needs to be woven in here if we want it to be really good, if we want it to be really aligned, if we want your business to feel really fulfilling and joyful over time. And building a business is going to involve having to do stuff that doesn't always feel exciting or fun or joyful. Reality of life. But if our understanding of why we're doing it is clear, coming back to that Steve Jobs quote, it calls us forth. We're like, oh, okay, that's the vision. That's why I'm doing this stuff that sucks right now, because that's what I want and it makes sense. Instead of the phone ringing and being annoyed by the client and being like, oh, having no idea of why we're doing it. Having no idea of why those emails in our inbox are making us so crazy, right? So let's keep building towards this. Take that strategy, take those big rocks and start to turn them into action. We now need to make it more specific. We can't just live in this idea of like, oh, the next 3 years, these are the things I need to work on. We've got to make it a little bit more real and to lean in here to our Rosie the Riveter and be like, what are the actions I need to take? What is the stuff that I need to do to go make that happen? So when we think about goals, they are ways that we translate that vision and translate the strategic imperatives into actions, things that we can look at on a list and go, I can do that. They're creating the roadmap that helps you get there. And they're things that are specific, they're actionable, and they're the things that you and or your team or others over time will actually take and do. Now, if we come back to the building of the house, we had this idea that we were going to need to do some work on the budget and financing. And if I then sit down and go, okay, well, what does that actually mean? What are my goals here? It's going to start to sound like, well, I need to find a mortgage broker. I got to discuss some loan options, create a budget spreadsheet, get an estimate from that architect, get an estimate from the builder. You see what I'm saying here? Look at the investments, save the money. These are things I need to do. I can control them, right? These are my goals. These are the goals. In a business context, let's use the one example. I need to improve the marketing and sales. So then I might sit down and say, okay, well, now that I'm clear, I need somebody to help me with my marketing. My goals then start to look like, okay, I'm going to ask some fellow business owners for recommendations. I'm going to interview firms. I'm going to get proposals from them. Then I'm going to develop a budget. Then I'm going to probably need to hire somebody to help me, right? So the goals start to become clear within that strategic objective. And when we do write good goals, they tend to be smart goals. And you've probably seen this ad nauseum, but I think it bears repeating because we do want them to be specific. I need you to know what the hell you're trying to accomplish. I want it to be measurable so you will know when it's done. I want it to be achievable, meaning you're not writing down something that you're like, I have no chance of being able to do this with my resources or within my timeline. It's got to be relevant And relevant today, I want you to really understand relevance means that it's linked to your strategic imperative and vision, because otherwise, why are you doing it? And time bound, at some point, we put a date on it. But today really is about brainstorming. You will come back and really make these more specific and more detailed over time. But for the purposes of today, we're really just brainstorming. We're getting some stuff on the board, some things we need to do. But I do have a cautionary tale, and this is really important. And I struggled with where to put this in the presentation, but I felt like it had to come here. And this is about money. Because oftentimes a business owner, I'll go, what's your goal? And they go, well, my goal is to make $500,000. And I'm like, that's cool. Moving on. What's your goal? Why is that not a goal? Money is not the goal. Money is the vision. Money is the want. It's the desire. It's the thing that is at the end. It is the end result of having done the right stuff in our business. And so many business owners do not get this. So they spend an inordinate amount of time hyper focused on, well, my goal is making the money. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's the end result if you do all the other things. It's the end result. So I do want you to have a financial target because it's a hobby, it's a business. You got to have a financial target. You need a budget. But I want you to spend your time really developing goals for things you actually can control. Because remember, money is not in your control. Because if it were, all of us would be multimillionaires and none of us would be on this workshop. We'd be like, peace, I don't need to be doing this. You don't control it because you do not control anyone saying yes. You do not control a client or customer saying yes to you ever. You only control you. So when you are writing your goals, the goals need to be written to be things you can do. They are the things like I can make a call. I can talk to a person. I can go out and do this thing. I cannot transact $10,000 today without another person saying yes to me. That ain't the goal. So I needed to hit that and hit it hard here because for many of you, you're probably going, where's that money goal fitting in here? And I'm like, I just want you to have it. It's direction, but it is telling me your vision. It is not the goal. Okay, so with that soapbox over, I want to come to this activity, which is let's take the strategic imperative and start to turn it into actions that you and your team can take, the things that you will do to fulfill that strategic imperative. So these begin on page 19, and I'm just going to have you start working. I want you to start brainstorming and getting ideas on paper, and I'm going to give you a number of minutes here. Start with one strategic objective and then keep going. And if any of you have questions, you can just like ping me in the chat. That way we don't interrupt everybody else's workflow. Okay. Okay. So I know this at least got you rolling, but I know it won't have gotten you completely done. So I want to give some guidance about how to wrap it up. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is actually go to bed on it. I want you to sleep on it. One of the best bits of advice I can give you from years and years of coaching and also working through this myself. Often a lot of the clarity comes in the space in between, the liminal space. It will not come when we're actively going like, I need the answer to this thing. What's my vision? What's my goal? What do I want to do? It comes later. So take a brain break from it. Come back to it. I will want you to revisit those strategic big rocks first and make sure that the big ones you're landing on feel right to the vision you're shooting after. Um, Keep mapping out those goal brainstorms for each strategic imperative. And once you've got a decent start, like it doesn't have to be exhausted. I just need enough or exhaustive. You just need enough there to get going. So use momentum as your on your side here. Like let the momentum be there. Don't stop, start, and then put it in an envelope and be like, I'll come back to it. Just get going. Just go. So the goals do need to be made smart, but by that, what I really mean is just prioritize the first couple things you need to work on, get a deadline for them, and then delegate stuff if you can, and then get moving. Just go. Because so many of the answers, and especially for those of you who are sitting here going like, yeah, I don't know, the answer will become clear when you get into action. I promise you. As Walt Disney says, if you can dream it, you can do it. I mean, he's living proof of that, but so are all those other things that we talked about today. And in fact, you guys are living proof of that. What you have already done at this point in your life is living proof. At some point, you had a dream of starting your own business. Guess what? You did it. At some point, you had a dream of making some amount of money. Guess what? You did it. At some point, you dreamed of landing like an amazing client. At some point, you did it. And at some point, you dreamed of all the stuff that's like sitting around you. By and large, you dreamed it. You did it. Whatever you set your mind to, I believe you can do if you will do the right stuff. So I want to turn it over. We'll open chat for the rest of our time here. Things I'd love for you to share if you want is like, what are you really calling in for 2025? However you interpret that question. And, I encourage you, sometimes we need to say these things aloud. Let somebody else be witness to it, especially if there's something you're feeling a little afraid of. I'm going to really encourage you to speak it into this audience today. I will stop recording because this part will not be in our group share for the rest of the people. So this is just for us. So after that little break while we chatted as a group, I wanted to just come back and wrap things up here. One, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us live if you did. Thank you for watching this recording if you're watching this later. I want to encourage you, reach out if you have questions or you need help as you're refining your plan. Let momentum be your friend. There is no need to spend an inordinate amount of time doing or belaboring the process of setting your vision and goals. Yes, it's important, but where the rubber meets the road becomes more important in this work. It's because we can't get to our goals by thinking alone. It truly is about action. What you do following this work that we've done and wrapping up your goals will be more telling. It's what you do in the days and weeks that come that will be more telling about whether or not you reach that vision that you have in your heart. More than anything, and I just shared this with the group as we were chatting, I want you to get what you want. Success is so individual, and success for you and me will look different. I want you to have your version of success. Nothing makes me happier than that when a client goes after what it is that they want and they get what they want. And I've also joked with them, and I'll tell it to you too. Sometimes we get to that destination and we're like, well, shoot, this isn't exactly what I want. And then we pick another goal. And that's okay too. I've been there a million times. It's part of life. And that's why this work is so important. We can't set a vision once and be done because we are ever evolving as beings and humans. Our wants and desires change over time. And it is important that you revisit this work over time so that you will keep progressing towards the vision that you have now. So with that, I just want to say thank you again for being here. I really look forward to getting a chance to meet you or see you in person or online again, or hopefully work together someday. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out, and good luck.